So question, if the war was won more than any war has ever been won before, then why send thousands more troops overseas?
To begin with, I ended 8 wars, and it may be a little early to say this, but if we add Iran and Lebanon, that will be 10 wars ended and many, many millions of lives saved. Think of how many lives we've saved.
10,000 US troops are right now on their way to the Middle East as tensions escalate between Washington and Tehran. Overnight, the US Navy blockade on Iran faced its first major test after an Iranian ship tried to evade US forces. That forced an American destroyer to step in.
The US has announced a formal blockade of Iranian ports and coastal areas. This is illegal action. If you do not comply with this blockade, we will use force. The whole of the United States Navy is ready to force compliance. Now.
OK, for more, let's cross live to Mike Baker, former CIA agent. 10,000 troops, Mike, deployed now. What does that mean? What happens next?
Well, I mean, there's upwards of 50,000 U.S. military personnel that are deployed at this point, connected to the Iran conflict. And there are reports that they're sending additional resources, including several thousand more troops out there. And that's all happening at a time when the White House is messaging that they could wrap this conflict up soon, right? So they're saying, okay, it's likely we could wind this down. But at the same time, yeah, you've got this buildup, this surge of additional troops and assets out to the region, including another aircraft carrier and its strike group. So definitely mixed messages, but it's likely that what they're doing is they're just trying to build on the pressure to try to get the Iranian regime to sit down at the table and actually negotiate in good faith.
There's quite clearly a growing gap between what Donald Trump is saying about the Iran war and what is actually happening. Because while Trump continues to claim the war is very close to over, that he said many a times before, the US is doing the exact opposite of winding down. It seems to be escalating. According to new reporting from the Washington Post, the US is sending thousands more troops into the Middle East, not withdrawing, not stabilizing, but expanding, it seems.
Let me think. Gosh, everything is so expensive. And what happens when you have a child is no longer you buying things for yourself. Right. Everything goes to that child, and you think about them constantly.
We can't take care of daycare. We're a big country. We have 50 states. We have all these other people. We're fighting wars. We can't take care of daycare. You got to let a state take care of daycare, and they should pay for it, too. They should pay. They have to raise their taxes, but they should pay for it. And we could lower our taxes a little bit to them to make up, but it's not possible for us to take care of daycare. Medicaid, Medicare, all these individual things.
No money for issues that Americans are really concerned about right now. The cost of their healthcare. How do they pay for daycare? And yet we're going to need more money for wars. That going to come back to haunt the president?
I was going to say it's going to be in some campaign ads this fall, undoubtedly. I don't think that was necessarily meant for publication right there. That was kind of more candid comments that got leaked in a video that was in a closed door session. But
at the same time, reports have emerged showing just dire conditions that troops are having to endure as this conflict is drawn out. US troops deployed to the Middle East during the Iran war are facing scarce food supplies, forcing some to ration what can barely be called a meal and are having to endure prolonged hunger. And alarmed by these conditions, family members have reportedly spent significant sums sending care packages to try and help nourish their loved ones serving the country. But US Postal Service deliveries to the region have been suspended, leaving boxes stuffed with home-cooked meals and protein bars stranded in limbo.
This is a meal service members were served aboard the USG Lincoln, a carrier strike group in the Middle East. As you can see from this, the tray is half empty. The top right, you have what looks like sliced carrots. Then in the center, you have a brown piece of what looks like turkey bacon of sorts. Not clear what it is, but it's brown, it's gray. And then a hamburger patty. That's all that service members received on this ship in terms of this meal. So that is very significant. But that's not the only example we have. This is aboard the USG Tripoli. No vegetables are anywhere to be found. Service members were served a small piece of some type of pulled meat, either pulled beef or pulled pork. And then it looks as though just 2 flour or corn tortillas served alongside the meat. Right now, what we are seeing overseas is a complete degradation of our service members, a complete lack of care of those in the Middle East. And we've learned over the past 36 hours that despite what is happening in terms of negotiations between the United States and Iran, the United States Pentagon is actually still surging thousands of service members to the Middle East more and more.
And at the moment, more than 50,000 American service members are currently stationed in the Middle East, including thousands of Marines and sailors aboard warships patrolling the Strait of Hormuz. Many of these vessels have not made port since the war erupted in late February. And when their commander-in-chief is chopping and changing every 5 minutes from just complete genocidal manic calls to action to, well, things are going well, it's hard to keep up, right? He has repeatedly described this war as very close to over.
If you make a deal, we're going to see what happens. But I think we're very close to making a deal with Iran. You'll be the first to know, but I think we have a chance. And if that happens, oil goes way down, prices go way down, inflation goes way down, and you're going to have, much more importantly than even that, you won't have nuclear holocaust.
Interesting, because Trey's right. You know, the markets are way up. You had oil prices that were rapidly dropping today, Leslie Marshall. But, you know, you listen to Democrats. I was listening to several today who are still kind of harping on gas prices. I look out the back door. I know gas prices were actually higher 3 years ago than they are to now. Is it a good battle with the way things are going? Is this a good battle for the Democrats to pick, even as late as today?
Yes, because we have to look at the big picture. And the big picture is we're just a few days into it. And if you talk to economists throughout the world, they say, look, we're really hurting Iran's economy, but this is going to start not just to hurt U.S. economy, but our allies' economy. And our allies are not very happy about that. Speaking of the American economy, U.S. energy prices, if this remains in effect, this blockade, it is going to hurt us in the long run. And then we just have to look at, a lot of people are saying we have 168 schoolgirls that died, 13 military, and God knows how many civilians in various countries since this started. For what? To have a strait open that was open before all this started. We don't have an off-ramp on this. And Iran is saying, I know we can't trust them, I agree with Trey on that, but they're saying, look, we don't have all these points agreed to, and we're not giving up for any check with billions of the uranium that the United States claims that is going to occur, or the nuclear dust.
Yeah, back to kind of...
I mean, wars don't look like this when they're ending. And this fits a broader pattern that we've seen throughout this conflict. The Trump administration declares victory, escalate operations, and shift messaging, then repeat.
Everything shook, and it's something like what you see in the movies. You know, everything, your ears are ringing. You know, there's dust and smoke everywhere.
This soldier was part of a crew of about 60 troops stationed at the military post in Kuwait hit by the strike. He says his unit's leadership ordered them there despite intelligence showing it was a potential drone target.
We moved closer to Iran, to a deeply unsafe area that was a known target.
So what was the reason that you were told for why you needed to be there?
I don't think there was a good reason ever articulated.
The attack killed 6 American soldiers and injured dozens more.
Were these deaths preventable?
In my opinion, absolutely yes.
The next day, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth called the Iranian drone a squirter that got through the Army's air defenses.
It happened to hit a tactical operations center that was fortified, but these are powerful weapons.
What fortifications existed there?
I mean, I would put it in the none category from a drone defense capability.
None. There were no fortifications.
None.
A Pentagon spokesperson declined comments citing an active investigation regarding the drone attack, though. The department has said consistently all safety measures were taken to safeguard the troops. But, Tony, as we've reported before, those troops, the injured ones, they're dealing with a lot of physical wounds, not to mention their emotional scars.
Blanche, my question is this. A number of military and legal scholars have raised questions about bombing a nation's, all of its bridges, all of its energy structure as possible war crimes. What is DOJ's analysis of that position? And could you give us a sense of what you're advising the White House?
We support the Department of Justice, as it always does, supports the Department of War, the White House, Department of State to the extent that's involved, and our intelligence communities to the extent that that's something that's appropriate. And we provide counsel to them, and we have been doing that as you would expect.
So I give it a few more days before there is a lengthy Truth Social post about how Iran has violated the terms, and it's back to more Call of Duty-like rhetoric.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to add the MeidasTouch podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts for new updates every single day.